My son looked me straight in the eyes, smiled, and said one word I'll never forget. Finally. At first, I honestly thought I'd misheard him. I had just finished telling him that I had lost almost everything. That my investments had collapsed. That I might have to sell my house. That, for the first time in over 30 years, I didn't know how I was going to pay next month's bills. Most sons would ask if their father was okay. Most sons would offer to help. Mine smiled. Then he leaned back in his chair and actually laughed. I guess reality finally caught up with you. I felt something inside my chest break. Not because I needed his money. Not because I had actually gone broke. But because I suddenly realized I had spent 31 years raising a man I no longer recognized. He had no idea. None at all. That every word coming out of my mouth was part of a test. A test that would determine exactly who inherited everything I owned. He thought I was a broken old man desperately asking for help. What he didn't know was that less than 48 hours later, our family attorney would gather everyone together, open the real documents, and reveal that I wasn't bankrupt. I was worth more money than my son had ever imagined. And after hearing what he'd said that afternoon, his name was no longer where he thought it would be. Looking back now, I suppose I should have seen the warning signs years earlier. My name is Adrian Whitmore. I'm 63 years old. I've been a widower for almost 8 years. My wife, Susan, was the kindest woman I've ever known. Before she passed away, she made me promise something. Don't let money decide who our son becomes. I promised her I wouldn't. I kept that promise. Unfortunately, our son made his own choices. Growing up, Mason wasn't a bad kid. He was curious, funny, hard-working. If another child forgot lunch at school, Mason would split his sandwich in half without anyone asking. Susan used to whisper to me, "He's going to grow into a wonderful man." For a long time, I believed that too. I built Whitmore Industrial Supplies from nothing. When I started, it was just me. One rusty pickup truck. And a rented storage unit. I spent decades working 18-hour days. Not because I loved money. Because I loved my family. Every late night. Every missed vacation. Every sore muscle. Was for Susan and Mason. I wanted my son to have opportunities I'd never had. The first change came after college. Mason landed a job in finance. His salary was impressive. His friends all drove expensive cars. Suddenly, the old pickup truck that had built our family's future embarrassed him. "Dad," he said one afternoon, "couldn't you buy something newer?" I laughed. "This truck still runs perfectly." That's not the point. It kind of sends the wrong message. Wrong message. Those words stayed with me. A year later, he stopped inviting me to company dinners. Then weddings. Then networking events. His excuses were always polite. "They're limiting guests. It'll be boring. You wouldn't enjoy it." Eventually, he stopped making excuses altogether. When I asked why I wasn't invited anymore, he shrugged. "You just don't really fit in." That hurt. But I convinced myself it was only a phase. Then came the engagement. His fiancée, Claire, seemed wonderful. She treated everyone kindly. Even when Mason became impatient with waiters or hotel staff. She quietly apologized afterward. More than once I caught her looking embarrassed by him. One evening after dinner she stayed behind while Mason walked to the car. "I'm glad he has you," she told me. I smiled. "I think he needs someone who reminds him what matters." She nodded. But her eyes looked worried. A few weeks later my attorney called. "Adrian, have you updated your estate plan recently?" "No. I think it's time." At first I thought he meant because of my age. Then he asked a question that changed everything. If you passed away tomorrow, are you absolutely certain your assets would end up in the right hands? I didn't answer immediately. Because for the first time, I wasn't sure. That night I barely slept. Instead, I remembered every conversation Mason and I had shared over the past 5 years. Every impatient sigh. Every time he corrected the way I dressed. Every joke about my truck. Every moment he treated people like they mattered less because they earned less. The next morning, I came up with a plan. Not to punish him. To understand him. I called him. Mason, can we have lunch? Sure. When we met, I deliberately looked exhausted. I even wore the oldest jacket I owned. Halfway through the meal, I sighed heavily. I've made some mistakes. He looked up from his phone. What kind of mistakes? My investments. I lost almost everything. He blinked. Then, he smiled. Finally, I stared at him. I'm sorry. I've been telling you for years that you were behind the times. You should have listened. I stayed quiet. He leaned closer. So, how bad is it? I may have to sell the house. He didn't ask if I needed somewhere to stay. Instead he said, honestly, that's probably for the best. His voice became colder with every sentence. You've been sitting on that property for years. You'll never recover financially at your age. Maybe it's time you accepted reality. I asked softly. If I needed help for a while. He interrupted me. I can't support 2 households. You'll figure something out. Those words echoed in my head long after lunch ended. The following morning, I drove to a local diner. The waitress recognized me immediately. Mr. Whitemore, your usual. I smiled. Before I could answer, the elderly man sitting beside me quietly paid for my breakfast. You looked like you needed a good day, he said. He thought I was struggling. A complete stranger. Showed me more compassion than my own son. That's when I knew. The test was over. I called my attorney. It's time. 2 days later, our family gathered in his office. Mason arrived wearing a confident smile. He assumed we were discussing estate paperwork. He even joked, I guess we should make sure the government doesn't get too much. The attorney opened the folder. Before we begin, I need to clarify something. He turned toward me. Adrian, would you like to explain? I stood, then looked directly at my son. I never lost my money. The room became completely silent. What? I wasn't broke. I never planned to sell my house. My investments are stronger than they've ever been. His face turned pale. You lied. I tested you. His mouth opened, but no words came out. The attorney slid another document across the table. After recent revisions, the Whitmore Family Trust has been updated. Mason reached for the papers. His confidence disappeared as he read. His inheritance had been dramatically reduced. The majority of the estate would instead fund scholarships, employee hardship programs, and charitable foundations Susan and I had always dreamed about. He looked at me in disbelief. You can't be serious. I am. I spent my life building wealth. But I refuse to let that wealth reward selfishness. For the first time in years, my son cried. Not because of the money. Because he finally realized what he had become. Weeks later, he came to my house. No expensive suit. No luxury watch. Just jeans. And a plain shirt. He stood on my porch for nearly a minute before knocking. I'm sorry. Real tears filled his eyes. I've spent years chasing status. I forgot who taught me everything. I forgot who sacrificed everything. I forgot the kind of man I wanted to be. We talked for hours. Not about money. About Susan. About family. About character. Trust isn't rebuilt in a single afternoon. Neither is respect. But for the first time in a long time, I believed my son wanted to become the man his mother always believed he could be. People sometimes ask whether I regret testing him. I don't. Because money doesn't change people. It reveals them. And sometimes, the greatest inheritance a parent can leave isn't wealth. It's the opportunity to become a better human being before it's too late.